Yes, we are definitely having pre-show fun right now. We're laughing a lot, so if I have a grin on my face, you'll understand. But welcome to Inside the Market on the PCARMARKET Live YouTube channel. My name is David Jacobson, and you can check us out also on Spotify and Apple Podcast. Subscribe to our channel so you can check out all the interviews with our guests and this weekly recap, which you'll find very interesting if you're interested in the Porsche market. Inside the Market was created to give you what's happening, different things that sold, the cars that sold, why, and different market trends. And we'll also answer some of your auction questions, some of those inside secret questions that I think you may find fun and interesting. Today we have our very own Jim Barry. Welcome back again, Senior VP at PCARMARKET, and a special guest who actually took the drive here today. We appreciate it. He's from Huntington Ridge Motors, an experienced dealer, collector, definitely an enthusiast, one of us, and a part-time racer, and that is Mark Starr.
Thank you. Nice to be here. It's Hunting Ridge Motors, not Huntington. That's the town that's close to here.
Well,
Huntington.
we're right next to Huntington, so my mistake. Hunting Ridge Motors.
That's it.
You just corrected me so you can have me say it 3 times. That was good. I like that. I got to go back and see if I missaid that or not.
No, you did.
I did. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, welcome, and thanks for taking the ride here. And we're going to get right to it again because for some reason these things really go on and on and on. We have to edit a lot of it out, and I think that we have some great stuff to really address today. And that is going to be hot rods. Are they cool rods? Are they hot rods? What are they, hot or not? This is probably the most confusing segment to buyers, more than sellers, but even sellers in the Porsche community are the hot rods, Outlaws, and so forth. What are the values? How do you determine the value of a hot rod? And that's right now it's rhetorical. We'll get to that answer. But can you tell the difference between a $50,000 and a $100,000 hot rod? Can you honestly, those of you that are watching, can you tell the difference between $150,000 and a $300,000 hot rod? So what we're going to do is we're going to dig in a little bit and really, Mark, pick your brain, and Jim, with your experience and expertise, we're going to talk about that. But then we're also going to talk about the 4 hot rods, Outlaws, builds that sold on PCAR. We'll talk about why, and maybe that'll also clarify a little bit. But I think this is going to be really informative. As someone, I get confused, Mark, when I'm seeing a hot rod out there and I look at the car and I'm smitten with the car. It looks unbelievable. And then I say, oh, that's a standard 3-liter. It's filthy. It looks like they just put it in a beautiful body. And then I'll see another car. The engine looks unbelievable. It looks like it's a 3.2. It's beautifully detailed and treated up. And then the body looks like it fell off of a trailer truck. So it's so confusing. But what are some of the things in that, before we get into these cars, and the first one is actually one that you sold, is what are some of the things you think people need to look at when they're looking at hot rods?
It's so incredibly personal. I mean, when you start with a 911, it's like starting with a blank canvas if you're an artist, and you have so much potential and so much possibility. And the answer basically is, it depends. What is the car going to be used for? Are you going to be driving it? Is it going to shows? Are you going to be using it sparingly? Is it going to be used as a car that you can drive to the track and do track days? Is it a car that you want to race? Is it a car that's racetrack only? So there's so many ways that you can take a car and take a build.
Yeah, see, I like what you said. I'll tell you why. Because you're actually taking it from the back side, from looking from the left angle, which means take a look at what you're going to be using the car for, and then look at how that car fits your needs, not, oh, let me look at this car and start picking it apart or saying what's great about it, but what am I going to use it for, and how does it fit into my needs? And that will determine to you really what the value is.
I really don't want to go off subject a lot, but there's an expression that I use, an answer that I use when racing. I do some racing and some instructing occasionally. Someone says, how fast can I go into Big Bend at Lime Rock? Or how fast should I be going into the bus stop at Watkins Glen? And the answer almost always is, it depends. And the same thing applies to these cars.
Yeah.
What are you going to do to the car? It depends. What do you want it for? Do you want a car that you can race, literally take to the track and be safe in, or is it something you're just going to drive around? You're going to take your wife out, or a pet to take a drive on the weekends? And what do you want to use the car for?
Yeah, and there's massive differences in uses of these cars. We know that, like you said, a weekend Sunday morning driver to a guy who's going to slam it on a racetrack. So that's very good advice. But so what determines the value? And Jim, we talked about this earlier, like just the cosmetic and the cosmetic quality. Like, even like when you start to look at one of these cars, you can look at the body. You can look at, you know, what is the what is it made out of? Does it have a fiberglass, you know, fenders? Is it steel? Is the engine a 993, or is it a 3-liter engine that's a stock 3-liter engine? So just talk a little bit, Jim, before we get into these cars, of what are some of the things that when we're going to list a car, how do we justify the reserve and the value of these cars?
Yeah, well, one thing I'll say that I just learned from Mark, I never really thought wife or pet. I don't know if that's the same value. I don't know. But
yeah, you did bring them up right after one another.
But no,
and we spoke about that.
There's different grades and different calibers you would do with body and engine. So, you know, is it a backdate? Is it an RSR? Is it a car you left stock with some patina? Is it a car that looks stock and was made perfect? You have to rate those categories. And then you go into the motor. Is it just a freshened stock engine? Is it a stock engine from a later variant? Like, you know, maybe you stick a 3.2 in a you know, F body. Maybe you stick a 3.6 from a 993 into a G body. Or is it like a whole custom bespoke, you know, built blueprinted motor? And then you start pricing them out that way. But I'll just go on record to say there's no exact science with it. It's an emotional buy. This is the most emotional buy in the Porsche world, maybe even in the car world. You know, you got to look at it as almost like a swimming pool. You just buy it, enjoy it, and that's it, because there's no book value on this stuff.
Yeah, but you know, in the defense of those that have no voice, at least have no voice because you can't hear them right now, who are listening, is that's not good enough. All right, I hear what you're saying, and I agree with you. But here I am. I'm looking on PCAR. I'm on Bring a Trailer. I'm on, you know, Cars and Bids, whatever. And I'm seeing this car, and it's beautiful looking, and I have no clue on what it's worth. You know, so yes, what are you going to use it for, Mark? What are some of the main key ingredients? You know, is it a later motor? Is it a 993? What is a motor? And what does the car turn me on? And am I just going to come up with the value? I think that's why. And you're going to see when we talk about these cars, there's one example of a hot rod in these cars that is going to prove the lunacy of really not knowing what these things are really worth. Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Well, also too, this and like a forum type of platform. That's the way to buy these cars, because at least you have people there to help you. Like, you see what other people are willing to bid. You see the comments. So that helps you gauge a value.
Another great point is you talk about the comments in the auction. That is a great, you know, tool to use, because as much as some of the comments could be annoying, right, and some stuff that is
irrelevant,
and people could be crazy, we know. But there's some great feedback. I think maybe, Jim, you mentioned this before, or we talked offline, is somebody knew the car. I see all the time, hey, I saw this car in person at Lime Rock, or I was at Watkins Glen, or I was at Laguna Seca, and I saw it at the Rennsport reunion, and I saw what a great, you know, looking car. So there are, you know, people that have first count experiences, and also people that know the owner, the builder, the quality. There's just so much information that you can learn by reading the thread and filtering some of the stuff that's not important out.
What I've seen happen often is there's a post that says, I used to own this car. You find a former owner that didn't know the car. Yes. It's fantastic because you can put the pieces together.
Yes, that's why you gotta love the auction format. You gotta love it, because, you know, I gotta tell you, you know, for those people that are really not there yet, what is better than the world community seeing the answers and the questions about a car and giving feedback? Who gives a you know what about some of the irrelevant comments, but the ones that are relevant are so helpful. And I know we can go off on a tangent here. I don't want to do that because that's a whole nother segment, the value of the auctions. But let's just get down to this now. There's a car that, Mark, that you actually represented. It was your car that was sold on here. It was a 68 Porsche 911 with a 2.2 liter motor. Listen, everyone knows this, and I'm going to say it again. All we have are words and photos. Can we say it together?
All we have is words and photos.
Thank you. That's it. All we have is words and photos.
And video.
Well, the video is even greater. But that's all we have. And I say that as a joke here, but I could not be more serious. And when I look at this car, Mark, you know, listen, here's a professional presenting a car as a professional, and beautiful pictures. The shadows were minimal. Great interior shot. When you get a good feeling of what it's like to be in the cockpit in this car, and that side shot. That I love that side shot. That's kind of like almost a little elevated down in the car. You know what you're doing. Okay, so instead of buttering Mark up here because
I like it. Go ahead.
He really presentation is to me is everything, and you give us great photos and it motivates us to do a great write-up, and as a result, you got a great presentation. But, going past that, big cool factor here, this car with the Heuer stopwatches. Did you put that in, or that was in there?
That was in there. But, we have to go back to something you said before, because you didn't even realize this. I don't know whether you read the thread. But in presenting this car on PCAR, the guy who actually built this car chimed in. I had no idea who he was. I knew the former two owners, one from Westchester and one from New Canaan. But the guy who built the car saw the car, and he started to comment on the car. How
nice.
wonderful is that?
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. Those are the things that you hope happen, and I did not know that. Did you know that?
I did.
It's
you
part
better.
of
That's your
history.
job. You better know that. I didn't know that. That's great.
Yeah.
That is great for the buyer. I mean, for the buyer. And but big cool factor here. I mean, it looked. I get taken, cars can draw emotion, cars can really, these hot rods, these Outlaws they're meant to bring out some emotional, they want you to love them. You know what I mean?
And the presentation is so important, because what happens is if you can visualize yourself in that car, it adds value to the car.
Oh, 100%. And I saw myself in that car.
There you
but
go.
I really, Jim knows, I really was taken by this car. But anyway, and that's why, because of the presentation. I wasn't in the market. I wasn't really looking for a car like this. And I was intrigued and interested. I wanted to read, and then that leads to bidding.
It's all emotion. It comes down to emotion.
It comes down to emotion. So great presence, responsive seller. Okay, Mark. You're again. I'm not. You're already here today. I don't have to buddy up to, but, responsive sellers, again, getting in there and responding to people. And this is not what this segment's about, so I'm gonna go past that.
Right.
But the Heuer lap timers, but when you look at this car, Jim, what was your takeaway on this car? As far as the values, what it sold for, we know that anything could have happened here.
Yeah.
But based on what we said when we started this about the body, the look, the engine, how do you think it landed price-wise?
I think it landed fair.
Yeah.
The fun with the hot rods is sometimes people get emotional and the price doesn't make sense. But this is kind of where you would value a car like this. Anything between 50 and 100. I know it's a broad range, but it could kind of make sense.
Well, we picked a number on the car. We spoke about it, and the number is exactly what it did.
I know.
We were spot on. We said this is what the car's going to sell for, and we were within $1,000 of what our estimate was.
Yeah. And justifiably so. So when you look at this car, you look at the sport exhaust, the Wevo engine, transmission mounts. It had a great look, but it also had the 911S brakes on it, stainless steel brake lines. It was treated to some nice stuff. So it was not just lipstick. I'm not going to say a pig, okay? Mm-hmm. It wasn't just lipstick to make something look pretty and with some mascara. But it really was a good bone, nice car that was brought to another level and dressed up in a nice attire. So everything was fairly presented, and it did its job to bring what we consider to be the right number on the car. Yeah,
exactly.
The builder of the car had great taste. He was thinking about our group cars. He had a vision in mind. He envisioned this. It takes a lot of nerve. You know what? I'm going to paint the car white. I'm going to paint the hood and the trunk lid orange and put some numbers on the car with a Porsche.
Could you imagine?
And it all came together. I think I'm going to use mini light style wheels on the car. And look at it. It was balanced. It just looked
that's
beautiful.
a great word, balanced. And I'm going to tell you the lesson here is, and God forgive me for those that are going to take this the wrong way. We have cars that we get, whether hot rods or even stock 911s, right? 991s, Jim, that somebody puts on this weird stripe that is like kind of their flavor, their taste for some personal, touch that they love. And the car goes on, and we know if you just remove the stripe,
right,
you're going to get $20,000 more for the car,
right.
or you're going to sell the car. I can't stress it enough. take the advice from people that know. If you're not selling your car, see what happens is this: a lot of people are like, I'm put my car up for sale, and I'm not going to remove the stripe or these strange things that I did for my own personal taste, because if it doesn't sell, I'm going to wind up with the stuff off the car. Don't do it. Don't do it. Get it off. Clean the car up. Let your own personality stand. Paint your room, paint your living room, okay? But don't make the car look like it's a one-off special car for you only. This appeals to a wide audience and looked awesome. We can all agree it looked awesome. We had a car, I'm not going to get into it, that was on there that had these really, really weird colored stripes recently. The car would have clearly sold with no problem for a good amount of money. The stripes destroyed the sale.
It's like a garnish. It could ruin or make a meal. I mean, you could ruin it. You dump like a whole bunch of spice on top of a good piece of meat, and you destroy it. If you put the right amount, it makes it.
That's right.
But, you know, typically,
I think that's a great analogy.
This is the type of, this is the right setup. This is tasteful.
Yeah,
absolutely. And you know what? I like spice, but I don't like really hot sauce on my. I know people, they put into crazy hot sauce on their breakfast burritos. Me, that would destroy me in the morning. So each his own. But when you're doing something that appeals to a very small audience, and even when it's really specific personality, change it, get it back to normal, and present the car. This is a perfect example of doing a very wide something that has a wide appeal to a wide audience, and it paid off. Okay.
Yeah.
So
the other thing that's impossible to explain, but it's true, black wheels, right? Everybody wants black wheels, but in our dealer career, we put a car here with black wheels. It won't sell. We paint them silver. The car sells in a week. It's almost like people just like to do it themselves more than the actual result.
Yeah, and I'm a black wheel guy, man. And as a matter of fact, we have a car that's gonna come up. Not the next one, the one after that. Actually, that was a big deal. The black. We're gonna talk about that, Jim.
Which one?
How appropriate. Well, I'm not gonna mention it. It's coming up. Stay here.
Okay.
It's coming up right now. Actually, almost right now. But so yeah, Mark, nice presentation again. The car ran well. The videos, and in fact, the guy that bought this car was one of the gentlemen who I think founded or part of the Air Brigade.
Air Brigade, right? He has this group. He's going on a rally this weekend with the car.
Yeah.
15 cars through North Carolina or South Carolina.
Please don't break down. Please don't break down.
No,
please make it over.
I'm not worried about it.
No, I'm kidding. Listen, even the nicest cars, these early cars,
it happens.
You know, it happens. Listen, it happens to all of us. But come on. But we're happy he bought it. He did a little article, comparing us to Bring a Trailer and so forth. We appreciated the shout out, and I hope that everything went well with the whole purchase. And we pride ourselves on putting our best foot forward and doing a thorough job. And come on, man, spread that word. PCARMARKET's rocking, and we appreciate you buying the car. And Air Brigade, a shout out to you. I read some of your articles on there, and nice.
Yeah,
nice.
He's a nice guy.
Nice guy. And you know what? We love when people really have a real, true passion to share knowledge and the experience, the air-cooled Porsche experience.
I'm pretty sure I met him in Amelia Island. He was a nice gentleman.
Yeah, no,
I recall him walking over to the booth.
And that's why when you go to these places, our favorite thing is meeting these guys, all from all these different areas. It's a lot of fun.
Enthusiasts, common interests. Conversation always goes and goes and goes.
It's a lot of fun to meet people when we're out there. So let's talk about the next car, which is a 79. Now, this is a 79 Porsche 911 74 RSR Tribute.
Wow. I like
Say that 10 times fast.
I like this car.
We really like this car, so much so that we brought it back for a cameo. It was actually on here about almost a year ago. Almost a year ago.
With the builder, from what I recall.
So check this out. This is what I mean about the crazy market. Was he the builder? Or was he somebody?
I recall him being the builder.
We believe it's the builder that sold the car. Yeah. So a year ago, the car comes on, and follow this about how crazy the values could be. Mark, I don't know if you know this. This car got a high bid of $160,000 about a year ago. The seller at the time wanted more. Just wanted more. Now, the world has changed in many ways, but we believe no more so than the hot rod market. People are less willing to just spend $100,000 because it's a back date and it looks really cool. This car got up to $160,000. This is a nice car.
I remember begging him to take it too.
We begged him to take it, and not only that, the car is well done. A 3.2 fully rebuilt, nice upgrades, great stance, restoration photos showing great details. GTS.
I'd be willing to bet that he had more than that invested in this car.
No,
Oh,
but that's the crazy thing. Let me. You're right. 993 brake calibers, just a gorgeous looking car, well executed, the right hardware, and obviously a very knowledgeable, quality build. And the car got to $160. He wanted more at that time. No sale. Fast forward, the car winds up going to one of these other
Went to like an auction house.
an
like a
auction
physical-
house.
Yeah.
Car sells for considerably less, and that guy who buys the car puts it on PCARMARKET, and the car does this time $115,000, and the car sells, and the buyer is the seller is very happy, got a really great number, all things considered, and the buyer could not be happier. He got a great car.
I'm sure he did. I mean, that's a great buy at that price.
It's $115,000, but look at the disparity between a year ago and today, and what it sold for in the middle, even less. And by the way,
here's the question.
One of the big auction houses is sold for even less.
than this.
Okay,
Yeah.
but here's the question. Now, that guy who sold the car here for 160 didn't take it and then went to the auction house. I'm willing to bet, I don't even know what the auction house was. So many of them now will not take a car with a reserve. I'll bet you it was a no reserve
That's
auction.
correct.
And he thought that it was
yeah.
going to go for a lot of money.
That's correct.
That guy left that auction thinking he was going to get $200,000, probably got $90,000 or $100,000 for the car, left crying with his tail between his legs. The guy who bought it then sold it on PCAR, and he was very happy with the result because he bought the car right.
Yeah.
Selling a car sometimes at one of these auction houses with no reserve is like the closest thing that you could go to, like Las Vegas with the mortgage on your house. You don't know what's going to happen. The main difference between an auction house and PCARMARKET is that the car's up there for a week. You have a week. You have comments on the car. You can do research. You can speak to people. You can study photos. You can speak to your wife and say, honey, what if I buy this? You're going to throw me out of the house. You can talk to your dog and find out if your dog wants to go for a ride. I mean, there's all these things that you can do. You have a week to do it.
Yeah.
Whereas at an auction house, if you go there, you think about it before, but you fly to Scottsdale, you're there for a few hours, you look at the car, the next thing you know, you're bidding, and you don't know what's going to happen. Maybe you get cold feet. But having this format is the best. It's the best because everything slows down a little bit, and you can really make an educated buy. And that's what PCARMARKET offers, and I think it's fantastic.
So basically, on a car like this, we know that the build of this car had to cost well over the sale price, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I believe that the original seller was being very truthful with us, and he had somewhere around the $200,000 mark invested into the car. And I believe that because we've built cars, we know what it takes. And when you look at this bodywork is very intricate. This is not just like a car with a couple of bumpers. I mean, look at the bodywork on this car. And there's pictures of the process. You could tell it was done right. And then, look what he did to the car. He didn't just make it look nice. He did the brakes. He did these extremely wide wheels. The interior looks well executed.
Center-lock wheels. I mean,
Yeah,
there's a tremendous amount
this is
that
an
was put into
amazing
this
car.
car.
It really is.
I own two cars that are RSR type of cars. One is a real Carrera that was built into an RS car, and then I have one that was built by this guy, Bob Johnson, years ago. The amount of detail that's in this car is incredible. I mean, I went through all the photos that were displayed. This is a fantastic build.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt. It's a well executed build, a fair number for the buyer, and based on everything that we know, a reasonably decent price for the seller as well. Again, getting over $100,000 today for a car, you need to have a serious car that's well executed.
That's right.
So, let's go on to the next car here. The next car is a 1989. Okay, this is a cool car. This is a cool car because just a little bit of a backstory here. It's an 89 911 25th anniversary edition with a 3.4 a G and a G50, which comes in the 89 G bodies. But what happened with this is the gentleman consigned it to PCAR, and Mark, believe it or not, he didn't know it was an anniversary.
Right.
Didn't know it was an anniversary car, and he actually had the work done to the car, changing and increasing the displacement and doing some work on the car not knowing it was a 25th anniversary.
Right.
So he actually bastardized a
special limited edition
limited edition car that really didn't need it. However, talk about, stepping in, is he made it look even better.
Yeah.
He put the black wheels, which look great. He did he put coilovers on the car?
Yeah, this has Elephant Racing suspension, from what I recall, and
JE
torsion
pistons.
bars.
He rebuilt the engine.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, I have a little notes over here. He nickel plated, said JE pistons, Fab Speed, cat back exhaust, strut tower brace, turbo tie rods, Elephant Racing sway bars, Tarot suspension. So he took a car, and in this particular case, it worked out well because he took an anniversary car, he made it look a little bit more sinister, a little bit more happening, and upgraded the displacement to 3.4 liter, so it actually had a little bit more power. I don't know how much you really got out of that, but it definitely upgraded the car. And Jim, we talked about values here. If this was if he didn't touch this car, how did he do compared to what the car sold
He did well because, keep in mind this was in Canada. So sometimes, depending on where the buyer is, you see a little discount in the price, especially if it's coming to the U.S. And the Canadian seller is usually okay with that because of the exchange and so on. But if this car had a stock engine with this mileage and the motor wasn't rebuilt anytime in the vicinity of time, this car probably would have done maybe low 40s. So, he got the money he put into the car, and somebody got a kick-ass car. And what's cool about this car is it's a nice car to drive. You could drive it, right, because it's got mileage. And it still has its identity, which is what most hot rods don't. It's always, the car is completely changed. It's a different color. It's a different look. This car still is an 89 anniversary. It's still a G-body car, but it just has some nice upgrades. So it's just a different interpretation of a hot rod.
You know what I think? I think that if you had a silver anniversary car, a 25th anniversary car that had low miles, it was completely stock, and it had that beautiful interior with the contrast piping and the features. They came with, I think, 6 and 8-inch wheels, all the silver anniversary cars. I don't know why they didn't put 7s up front, but that's the way the cars came. If it was a low-mileage car, it would have been sacrilegious to do this to the car, but the car had over 120,000 miles on it.
That's right.
So it's not going to a collector anyway, because they only want cars with low miles. So what he did really worked on this car. It came out beautiful. It wasn't overdone. The black wheels looked sinister. It gave it a mean look. It had a hot rod engine. I watched the video. I listened to the car. This car sounded great.
Yeah.
It looked great. It still had its basic bones of a 25th anniversary that's been modified. This was the perfect, if you're going to do anything to a 25th anniversary car, this was done tastefully, and it was done to the right car. I think this guy gets kudos for doing that.
Yeah, man. Amen. I agree. And you know what? The presentation was beautiful. It looked like your car. It evoked emotion. When I looked at this car, I was like, here's what happens is when they put the cars up, I get a chance to peruse through them, and I get every one of you out there watching that, I get that same first impression feeling.
If your gut's telling you, I want to buy this car, if that's what it's saying, you know it's right.
Yeah. So I actually, somebody's at the front door. I actually, I open up PCARMARKET, I look at it, I get the emails in the morning, and I'll take a look, and I see, and I get that same feeling that everyone else gets. This car, like yours, just dragged me right in, made me open the pictures, wanted to read more about the car. So great job. I think what you said is exactly right on, Mark. This car with the mileage and everything, he did the right thing, and he was rewarded for it.
Right.
He was rewarded for it. But the buyer got a beautiful car at a fair price as well.
Right.
So this is one of those win-wins. This is what we're all about, and congratulations to the gentleman who bought the car. But getting to the wheels real quick, this is where black wheels served us well.
It works.
Yes. It works.
It makes the car just look
a little
tough.
more badass looking.
It's tough. It sounds tough.
Yeah.
It looks tough. It just really worked. What was done to this car, I think, was spot on.
Well, you know why, too?
I agree.
The hands that this car is going to fall into likes this type of thing. My comment earlier about the black wheels was like, you could have just like a nice silver PDK convertible that maybe, an older gentleman wants to buy the car and take it to his country club, and the black wheels are...
Careful what you're saying about older here.
Well, you know what I mean. They don't suit that individual. You know what I mean? And that individual is probably not buying this kind of car.
Right.
So, that's why you have to let them do it. But this is nice because whoever bought this doesn't have to do the work. And some people don't know where to go to get the work done. So it's good.
And another perfect example of you don't need to have these crazy wide body, listen, different strokes for different folks, but you can take a car that kind of has like a G body, I would say natural G body, but it's unmodified and really make it look really freaking awesome, really cool. Okay, so the next car up we have here is a 1995 Porsche 993 RWB LA number 3 Janabel. This was owned by Joey Chang, who is the head of LA RWB, and this is the complete opposite. This is a real look at me, badass looking wide body with a 993 motor, not modified or rebuilt, so the cost kept it down. Autocon, Rent Sports, SEMA show, car show car, RS flywheel and clutch, Fab Speed super exhaust, Brembo GT brake kit, and the car was on BAT. It no-sailed at 91 and then sold here on PCAR for 101 plus the fee, so it was like 105,000 to the buyer, and it's a real looker. You know, so what's your guys' Jim, what do you think of this?
Well, it's interesting. The hot rods, they give you a thrill. This is a thrill in a whole different kind of way. This is, you want to be out in public, you want to be at shows, and you're getting a lot of attention in this car, and that's fun for a lot of people. You know what I mean? It's a fun car to take out and get people's opinions. It's a conversation piece for sure, and that's one of the major reasons people will buy a hot rod.
Yeah, Mark.
It's not my particular cup of tea, but you got to admire the quality of the build, and it served a purpose. This car went to car shows. It attracted a lot of attention. It was a way to show what they're capable of doing. But it's not really a race car. It's, it can't be very comfortable to drive on the street, but it's a work of art, and this is what his vision was. And as is the case with almost all Porsche cars, there's no right or wrong. You do what you want to do to express what you want to express, and they did that with this car.
Yeah, I like that, Mark. I think that this car and RWB sometimes in general is about the expression of creativity. From Nake-san, right? Yeah. And also for the people that have these built for them. So it is an interpretation. It's enjoyable. It is definitely a segment, a new and evolving segment of the Porsche community. I dig that. We always talk about this, especially with Brad, that anytime somebody takes such passion and love for any type of car and customization, we dig it. Because
it's a work of art.
It's like a work of art where you can't not like it if you start to understand it's somebody's passion and somebody's vision, and that's awesome. That is awesome.
You might not like modern paintings.
What's that?
This has become part of the 911 story. Like RWB will be talked about. I mean, it's just something that came in and it got accepted and it got a lot of buzz, and it's cool.
It is. It just expands the world of Porsche and the different genres within the community. All right, so those are the cars that we wanted to take a look at. The hot rods, 4 different, completely different cars. They have different purposes, different interpretations. And boy, oh boy, there's a lot more. I hope that was helpful because it's not an easy space in which to research and buy cars. And we wanted to provide that information. Please send your questions to us. You could subscribe and send our questions. Before we go, though, there is something very interesting. We always try to fit in a question about the auction and from the community. And we actually had a question here from, if I can remember, I forget, he's from Thousand Oaks. And his name is Preston from Thousand Oaks, California. And he actually asked a question that was pretty interesting. He said, why, and I actually don't have the question written here, but I remember it. He said, why, I'm very organized today, why do people bid to a certain amount on a car and then disappear, Mark? And their top bid is nowhere near what the car could sell for. And before I just pass it on to you guys, it's very, very interesting because I have an example of what I think happens here. I went to an auction with a friend of mine who was in no way in the position to afford to buy a car that was up for auction. This was at a I believe Gooding or RM, and I said, hey, you could just bid. You could bid. And it was like, what do you mean? I said, yeah, just go bid. Get the thrill of, just bid $100,000.
Right.
And the car wasn't going to sell for $100,000. The car was like a $300,000 or $400,000 car, and the thrill of putting $100,000 bid in was really intoxicating.
Right.
And when you look at people here that see a car that is clearly an $80,000, $90,000, $100,000 car, and someone puts in a $10,000, $20,000, or $30,000 bid, it is fun. It's fun to be part of it. And I have to tell you, I've done that before years ago, where I'll press a button and you get that little feeling of submit, and you know that the car is nowhere nowhere near the reserve, but there's always that chance that you could own the car.
It's like buying a lotto ticket.
It's like buying, and you never know you're going to get it. But being part of it. So there are people that are in the game. There are people that want to dip their toe. There are people that are going to bid up to $50,000 on $1 million car. Don't judge.
Right.
Don't judge, man. It's the reason why Bring a Trailer became who they became, and we have the growth we have, is that there's all different people. But at the end of the day, people like the comments. They like to be involved. They like to bid, even if they can't win it. They have no intention on winning it.
If they're high bid, in their mind, they own that car, even if it's for 15 minutes
Yes.
until the next bid comes in.
Great. They own the car for that until the next bid comes in. And
They're part of the process. They're involved in the conversation.
Yeah,
I do it as well. And there's two reasons why someone would bid a certain amount. A, because that's as much as they can afford for that car. B, because they say, you know what, just let me throw a bid in. And if I buy it for that amount, I'm stealing the car. I might as well take a shot at it. You never know.
Well, there are people that do that. There are all people that bid $10,000. They'll throw a $10,000 bid on a $200,000. They're not intentions, but however, it's just the fact of putting a bid in.
You're part of it.
You're part of it, and believe it or not, there is excitement in that. You're part of, there really is. So bid, enjoy it. I don't care what you're doing. If you're using it as entertainment, you want to put a bid in, and then because a lot of that turns into actual people that are like, you know what? I want to own this car.
Yeah.
And they keep going. But even if it's not, even if it's for somebody looking to have a little bit of fun and put a bid in with all good intentions, you know, then go for it. You know, Jim?
And what I'll say to Preston, too, is because there's not one answer to this, right?
No,
like I've gotten, I've had people that said, oh, they were in the bathroom and missed the end of the auction, you know what I mean, or at a meeting. But the reason I've done it in the past is it's just like, as a dealer, right? I'll put bids. It kind of like reminds me about the car. And then I'll go in the last day and I'll figure out if I really want to buy the thing. But just putting my bid there, it's like walking into a dealership, leaving a name. You know the guy's going to keep calling you.
Yes.
And then you can figure out if you want to buy the thing.
Yes, I've done that on eBay.
Yeah,
I'll put one bid in, knowing I'm going to be reminded about it.
And if I do it 10 times, I buy one car.
Yes, yep. That's a very good point.
Yeah.
Very good point.
Part of it, and it really is. It's much more exciting to be part of the conversation.
Yeah. There is, just to stay on that, Jim, I think that's more important than people would think. If I put a bid in at $20,000 on a car that's going to easily sell for $200,000 plus, is my way to just get involved in the auction, knowing that I'm going to be reminded with an email or a text or something when the car gets to the end. I have done that before myself too. That's a very good point.
And it's back to what we were saying about the auction format for the hot rods. Some people don't know what to pay. It's like, all right, I'll get in. Let's see what the next bid is. And they want their hand held. It's almost like everyone's holding each other's hands, dragging each other to the finish line. Because why go in at $100,000 when the car might be worth 80? A lot of people just don't know. So they're in the game, and then they see what happens.
So there's a lot of reasons why someone may put a bid in at any point during the auction, and to recap, so it could be because they just want to get involved in the game. It could be because they want to be reminded of the fact that towards the end of the auction, they want to get an email to be reminded, so they threw a bid in there to get engaged in the process. And then you have people that really just are serious bidders that I'll always go back, not always, but I'll go back for the winning bidder and see when they put their first bid in.
Right.
And many times there's no bid from them at all until the end.
They're waiting for the last second.
There's different people, right?
Yeah.
And then a lot of times I'll go back and find it interesting. I love that. When that first bidder at, $10,000 on a $90,000 car, that guy won the car. I'm like, yeah, good for you. You know what I mean? You're rooting for those guys. They were in it from the beginning. And then, like I said, there are people that they win the auction and you look, it was like, oh, they were in there the last 3 minutes. It's all different. Everyone is different personalities. We have stopped trying to figure it out, right, Jim?
Yeah, there's no rhyme or reason to this thing. It's crazy.
It's
fun.
Crazy. And the more you try to figure it out, the more you're surprised. So that was a great question, and we actually are going to have a Inside the Market auction conversation about bidding, the theory behind it, because I know that it really intrigues people. But remember, this industry is not growing at a massive pace for no reason. People dig this. There's a tremendous value in the comments. There's tremendous value in the format itself, and educating and having 7 days to really vet and ask questions and to bid. And like you said, check with your wife. You're not you don't have to make a decision like this. Check with your dog if you have to, right? Pray about it, whatever it takes. So any other final thoughts about that?
No, I think you pretty much covered it there. I mean, that's really what it is. I think Preston got a good response to his to his question.
Yeah.
I think you missed your calling in life. You are so natural at this with the interviews and all the podcasts that I've seen before. You're fantastic. You're so
I
at
appreciate
ease, and you really do a fantastic job. Thank you for inviting me.
No, you're very welcome. You know what? When you enjoy a topic and you have some type of knowledge, it's kind of fun talking to people like-minded. Yeah, this is real difficult to do. Talk about cars.
Yeah.
But thank you, Mark. Thanks so much for taking the trip here. You know, you're a great partner in the auctions and a good friend of the PCARMARKET, and your knowledge and sharing is
Thank
really
you for
important.
being here. Appreciate it.
It's my pleasure.
And
Worked
Jim,
out well.
Yeah, Jim, thanks again for rocking it. Thank you all for watching PCARMARKET Live on the PCARMARKET Live YouTube channel. Again, Spotify. But the big thing is to subscribe so you're reminded when these things come live, because they are timely. And we have some really cool stuff. Stay tuned. We're going to be recording some car reviews. We're not going to do your typical car review. You know, you don't want to see too much more of me. You already see. And you're going to, there's a lot of people that do that a lot better than I do. But we're going to do something called Take a Ride with Me, which is going to really hop in for 5-minute segments on certain makes and models that you may want to just hop in and take a ride and experience. So we're going to do that, and that'll probably come live in a few days to a week and a half or so. But thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.